Welcome to the Spooky Chat podcast on YouTube. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Monica.
We are taking choice selections from our podcast and putting them here on YouTube for you to listen to. Find our full podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. Here's the story. Welcome. The other day, we were in a group chat with everybody we know, every single person, all 500 people we know. And I said...
Or 5.
It's 500. We're popular. And I said, hey guys, if your parents have stories, would you please ask them if they have any, and if they'll tell us any stories? And Tim came up with a banger. It's a pretty good story. And I had never heard of this entity. I had no idea what was going on. So I was super excited.
All right.
I had never heard of it either. I thought they were talking about lettuce.
I am not saying that this story involves a Lechuza, but this is what I was always told that it was believed to be. So the story, it starts when my father was about 15 years old, back in the 1950s. He grew up in a small hill country town in central Texas, and his father became really ill, and I'm not quite sure why they didn't take my grandfather to a normal doctor or to a hospital even. I never asked that question, but my father decided that he wanted to take him to a witch doctor instead. When they went to visit the witch doctor gave them some sort of a potion, some sort of, I'm not even sure what it was, if it was an herb or what it was. They gave him something to bathe in, and the witch doctor told them to bathe my grandfather at midnight, and so they did, and that he would feel better. And so at midnight, when they put him in the bathtub and they mixed in this solution, they could hear loud birds flying and screeching above the roof of the house.
Oh, shit.
I don't know how long it lasted, but it was a good while, I guess, while he was being bathed, maybe. I'm not quite sure. My father passed away in 2004, and within the next few months after, I spoke with my grandmother about the stories that my father had told me about his childhood, and this was one of them that she confirmed. I asked her at the time if she believed in Lechuzas, and she said she did. She didn't speak a whole lot of English, but she told me that she did believe in them. She told me that she could still hear them. She said that she could hear them at night. This was, I guess, in like 2006. That's the end of that story.
Okay, so I have a question. Do you think that it's because everything happened with your grandpa in the 50s that maybe is why your grandma kept hearing the Lechuzas?
That's a really good question. I really don't know.
So she heard him after that.
Yeah, because this took place in the 1950s, and when I confirmed the story with her, that was probably in 2005, 2006 that we talked about it. She said that she did believe in them as of then. My grandmother's passed since. But that she did believe in them then, and she believed that she could hear them.
On the roof?
In the vicinity of her home.
God.
Yeah. Which
That's
is
so nice.
right next to my mom's
That's
home.
scary.
So that's even better.
Have you ever heard anything?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Never heard birds outside?
I guess I have heard birds outside.
At night?
But do they sound
At
like
night?
owls?
I don't know. I never really thought about it. So I guess
have to
it's
think
possible.
about it now.
Well, I might have to just start, paying
Paying
a little
attention?
more attention when I go out there. But I thought that was weird, and I also find it weird that it's a small town that I grew up in, and my father found a witch doctor out there. Like, who is this person?
Well, and that's something...
I might be able to do a little more research and
Yeah.
find out, but...
Did your grandfather get better?
So my grandfather, he did get better, but it was only for, a few years, I guess. I think I mentioned, my dad was about 15, and my grandfather died when my dad was, 17, so I don't know.
It is weird that whatever it was worked for a little bit.
Right. That was weird to my father as well. That's my Lechuza story.
So he never went to the hospital but in those 2 years?
I don't know. I never asked those questions. I was more, as a child, you're just intrigued of the the giant bird woman, that's the part of the story that sticks with you.
I don't even know what a lechuza is.
Lechuza.
I've
Well,
never heard of that.
I'm super glad you asked because I didn't either. I had no idea. I've never heard of this. I've heard of curanderas.
Yeah,
Curanderas?
I've heard of
I've heard
brujas.
of, yes, I've heard of brujas, but I'd never heard specifically of a lechuza. The Folklore of Texas Cultures, and it's edited by Francis Edward Abernathy. It was originally published in 1976. The book goes through and talks about each culture in Texas. In the Mexicano section, there are a couple of stories. The first one, Scratches on the Bedpost, Vestiges of the Lechuza, which is by Ann Carpenter. And then there's a story, Violetta and the Owls, by Alonzo Perales. Lechuzas are associated with brujas, and lechuzas specifically are women that have sold their soul to the devil, and they become a screech owl at night. So I guess they're regular women during the day, walking around, and then they are screech owls at night. The very first part is, these lechuzas are always women. They are never men. And that stems from the whole idea that Eve was completely vulnerable and easily influenced by the devil.
Lame.
So it's not really surprising, that it's always a woman, always, some kind of devil entity. They are, when you see their faces, they are ugly to behold, and they usually threaten men. So it's weird that they were trying to heal him. Most of the time, you just get the presence of a lechuza, like the footsteps on the roof, screeching. If they come into your house, they'll disturb your bedding. Sometimes, if you hear the screeching and you look, they'll leave like a woman's shawl or something and you knew that they were there. But they do sometimes kill people who have done evil things. They can also be harbingers of bad luck and also curses. So if you're cursed, you're supposed to tie 9 knots in a rope and pray after each knot. So tie the first knot, pray.
Make a rosary?
I guess... Well, it didn't say specifically a rosary, but that's kind of what it sounds like. Ooh, girl. And though this tradition of a lechuza, a woman as an owl, I guess the question is, why did it come for your grandpa? Like, even though it looks like they were trying to heal him.
I wish I could tell you. I really don't know.
Well, I think the question is, was it a harbinger of his death 2 years later, or was he cursed?
I mean, because I don't know that what they were doing was a bad thing by tapping into witch black magic or witch doctor, potions and whatnot. Lechuzas are, I guess, drawn toward bad things or like...
So I wonder if the potion that they put in the bath, was that, and then you heard the lechuza outside, was it protecting him from the lechuza, breaking a curse?
I don't think it was... No, I wish I had...
Well, it sounds like maybe they thought someone had cursed him, gone to this witch doctor to kind of get an anti-curse or something, an antidote, and the lechuza's like, oh, you're cutting off my power, it's working.
Hey, that very well could have been what it was. Again, like, this was a story that I was told starting from when I was a young boy. Like, so I didn't ask the questions that I would be, or that I'm thinking of right now. I really don't have any other answer.
Thank you for tuning in to the Spooky Chat podcast on YouTube.
Thank you. Oh.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, let's do that again.
No, we're keeping this one.
No!
Thank you, guys.
You can also email us, spookychatpodcast@gmail.com. And we are on Instagram, spooky_chat_podcast. And we're on Facebook, Spooky Chat Podcast on Facebook.
Tim, where do you find us?
You guys can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher, pretty much any place that you can download your podcast app at. We are there. Please like us, subscribe to us, tell us what you think about us, give us 5-star ratings. Thank you.
Thank you to Forrest Wilson for Gallows.
Thank you, Forrest Wilson, for Gallows. Well, thank you guys for listening to our podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, spooky babies.
This is a professional podcast.
I had a sweater on because it was chilly in my apartment, and this whole thing made me sweat. Wait, what's going on?
Monica,
Stay
take
safe,
us out.
spooky bitch.
Wait, do it one more time.
Oh my god. This is our first episode, guys. We've never
Stay
done
safe.
this before.
Stay. Can we do it again?
No, that sounded great. That I can work with, but I couldn't work with last week.
Okay.
Boy, howdy, I could not work with that.
I didn't know what we were doing last week. I was really confused.